Shields up, Ironbreakers. Rurikhan here, coming at you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Marvel's Avengers. This title was sent to me by Square Enix so that I could give it a look and tell you guys my opinions on it. Now, I live streamed a bit of this game over here on YouTube on the very first day of early access. There's like 2 hours or so of footage. You can find that in the channel, and in the pinned comment of that video, you can find a link to like 2 more hours of footage to give you like a decent idea of what the initial gameplay is like of the single player campaign. Since then, I live streamed a whole bunch more of it over on Twitch. As a matter of fact, I finished the main story, the single player campaign, so that I could tell you guys my thoughts on the story. But ultimately, this video is not a traditional review because this is a live service game, and as such, there's a lot of end game activities for you to take part in, which I have begun. I'd say all in all right now, I'm probably about, I don't know, 20 hours or so into the game. I will be playing more of it because I am enjoying it, and I know that for a lot of people, this is going to be like, what do you mean you're enjoying it? You're not allowed to enjoy it because of all the things that people are saying on the internet. And it's like, look, I don't give a damn what anybody is saying on the internet. When I enjoy a video game, I enjoy a video game. I'm the guy that actually enjoyed some parts of the gameplay of Anthem while still realizing that the game had serious problems. So when I like a game, I'm going to play a game. And if anybody has a problem with that, well, that's just too damn bad. Anyway, so my opinions on everything that I've experienced so far in Marvel's Avengers. So first, let's start things off with visuals. I think the visuals actually look decent, even though the art style does give it a bit of a generic feel. I think a lot of people expected, not at this point, but when the game was originally announced, a lot of people probably wanted to have like the similarity of the actual actors in the MCU. But what people need to realize is that there are different universes of Marvel. So like, the comics universe is different from the cinematic universe, which is also different from the universe of this game, which is why one of the reasons why the characters look different. But we all know the main reason why the characters look different is because they probably didn't want it to pay the royalties for the likeness of the actors. Because it's one thing to have the license of the characters themselves, it's another thing to have the likeness of the actors' licenses, which I'm assuming is probably expensive as hell if you want to make your Iron Man look kind of like Robert Downey Jr. You know, that's probably going to be an issue. Or have Thor look like Chris Hemsworth, right? That's his name. Like, I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names. My memory is atrocious. I don't mean to insult anyone, but you guys know what I'm saying. Like, to get the licenses for all of that stuff would have been like a big no-no from a budget standpoint, which is why the heroes look a little bit on the generic side. And I can accept that. It is a little bit disappointing, particularly after the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that is going to be something that a lot of the fans are going to want to see. But ultimately, you know, once you kind of get used to their faces, I didn't think that was such a big deal. I didn't think like that was a big detractment from the whole thing. So again, visuals look good. Animations overall are decent, even if certain character animations feel a little bit floaty. Like, for instance, Captain America's double jump. He's got a double jump, and his double jump feels very, very floaty, and it's kind of weird. They could use a couple of touch-ups here and there. The other thing is flying. If you're flying around as Iron Man, it's pretty cool. You get to fly, and you actually have like a flight mode where you can go decently fast. But the feeling of speed just kind of felt like it wasn't there. And I understand why, because you have to balance this around all of the other heroes that don't get to fly, right? It's not like, oh, I'm Iron Man, I can just zip across the map in no time, right? But you still have to balance it, because when you're playing with other players, it would kind of suck. It's like, oh, the Iron Man guy is like all the way up ahead. Same thing with Thor. Thor can also fly, even though I haven't played that much of Thor. As a matter of fact, Thor gets very little screen time in the campaign unless you're actively selecting to play him. We'll talk more about the campaign and selecting certain characters to play, but let's just say I wished that the flying of Iron Man was closer to what Anthem was able to do. And I know that that's going to be something that a lot of people are going to be like, well, what do you mean? Well, the flying is one of the few things that Anthem actually nailed really well, the feeling of flight. As a matter of fact, it was interesting because the controls for flying as Iron Man are very similar to the controls for flying in Anthem, which is why the first time I picked up Iron Man, I just instinctually jumped up, press L3, here I go. And I was like, oh, it's just like Anthem. But, you know, I wish they touched up on the flight, maybe make it feel a little bit better. Again, it's not bad, but I wish it was better. There's a lot of things in this game that kind of feel like that, where you're like, well, this isn't bad, but I wish it was better, right? But now, as we are touching up on visuals, I feel like I should bring up the biggest thing that I have to point on this game as like the biggest flaw. So I'm playing on the PS4, as I've told you guys time and time again. Most of the video games that I play on PS4 because I have friends that have PS4, and usually that's where we end up playing most of our multiplayer games. We do like LAN sessions type of things on each other's places every now and then, and the PS4 is just a convenient way to do that. So I'm playing on the PS4, and also for this game, PS4 is going to have the exclusivity of Spider-Man, which is, you know, even as someone who is a PS4 user, I'm like, man, that kind of exclusivity deal kind of sucks. The fact that nobody else gets to play Spider-Man is kind of sucky, unless that's a time thing, but I don't think that's a time thing. But anyway, as I was saying, the biggest problem that I have with the game is the performance. Now, I'm playing on a PlayStation 4 Pro, and I selected it to play on the highest performance possible because, you know, sure, the game can look real pretty in 4K, but it's going to be pretty slow. So I was like, no, dude, give me the highest performance possible. But even in highest performance, there are some serious optimization issues when in this game. Like, let me just tell you this, right? From the moment that you boot up the game, just sitting on like the main menu screen, my PS4, like, it's louder than God of War. Like, you remember when everybody booted up God of War for the first time and you just saw your console like almost take off like a freaking jet engine? It's louder than that. Like, I thought that the console had reached its peak noise levels in God of War. No. Marvel Avengers is going to squeeze a little bit more noise out of your console. And it seems like your mileage may vary on this because I have a friend of mine that I play with who's Kegrin. As you guys probably know, if you watched any of my streams from Masan or whatever, you've known who Kegrin is. And he says he doesn't have as many frame drops as I do, but like, dude, there were so many times during my live streams that just like the frames would drop to a near unplayable level. And here's the thing, I've even you know, cleaned up my PlayStation like not even a month ago. So I took it apart, cleaned it up, replaced the thermal paste, and every single other game has actually been quieter than it used to be ever since I did that. So I know that what I did was right? Because like the console's been running smoother. But even still, Marvel Avengers just like completely kicks the crap out of my PS4. And in a lot of situations, the performance is a serious problem, to the point where one of the things that people kept asking was like, hey, how you like the game? Are you having fun? And I was like, yes, I'm enjoying it, but I would still advise you to potentially hold off because these performance issues are no joke, and they're going to be very annoying to people trying to play the main campaign, particularly if you happen to choose to play it on a bit of a higher difficulty, because when you get to those moments where it's like the frames start dropping and the enemies are a little bit more punishing, it can get pretty frustrating. So yeah, I hope that they patch this up, but this definitely seems like it's one of those cases that potentially they developed this game with the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X in mind. And they're just like, yeah, just reduce the visuals a little bit and we can get it to work for a couple of months until people get to the PlayStation 5. But that kind of sucks because like that's kind of like your first impressions of the game. I feel like they should have done more rounds of optimization so that the game just wouldn't run this bad. And understand, it's not all the time, but in the times where it does happen, it can really hurt the experience. Now, in terms of sounds, I don't really have a whole lot to point out. I think the sounds overall were pretty good. I think the music is good, even though there were a couple of situations where, like I said, because of performance issues, the music would stop playing. And again, this is all either because of optimization or because of the performance situation. But I've also had situations where sometimes certain enemies' AIs wouldn't load. Like even yesterday, I was still doing some of the tutorials for some of the other characters because, you know, you can finish the game and still have some tutorial missions left over to do. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to check all of these boxes, right? And I go into one of the tutorial missions, I think it was Thor's. And in Thor's tutorial mission, there's pretty much every Avengers tutorial mission at the very start, there's a bot who's there to teach you how to dodge. So this bot is just supposed to like attack you and you're supposed to do perfect dodges. So I start Thor's tutorial mission and the bot just doesn't do anything. He's just sitting there. And I had to basically reload the mission in order for the bot to actually activate AI. And I think that these are things related to performance. Like sometimes stuff doesn't load properly. I don't know why that is happening. But again, these are things that you will have to deal with. So let's touch up on the story a little bit, because this game does split itself up into two major parts. It is the single player campaign and then the Avengers Initiative. Now, I believe that you can just start with the Avengers Initiative if you want to, and you just go straight into multiplayer and you start playing. But it's a weird thing because the Avengers Initiative kind of starts after the single player campaign takes place. So the natural progression of the game is for you to play through the single player campaign and then go to the Avengers Initiative so that, you know, you can start doing multiplayer stuff and whatnot. But yeah, you can just jump into the multiplayer if you want to. So we're going to start by talking about the single player stuff, the story. And I feel like overall the story was not the most interesting story that they could have told. You'll probably see most of the plot twists. I mean, there's barely any plot twists even, because, you know, there's just not that many stakes when it comes to some of the stuff that they do with the story, because quite simply, you can't, like in an Avengers game, there's just certain characters that you can't afford to be like, yeah, we're just gonna, this character's gone. It's like, you know, nobody's gonna buy that. So there's some choices that were made in the story that I was like, well, I mean, you know, and the plot itself just feels like a mixture of the first X-Men movie that I remember seeing with the first Avengers movie that I remember seeing. It's like the story, it didn't really captivate me all that much. Like, I enjoyed some moments of the story, but the story overall, like, you know, here's the thing as well. I'm not like a comics guy. I didn't really read a lot of comics when I was a kid. Like, most of my exposure to the Marvel universe has been kind of through the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which I know is a different thing than from the comics and all that. Like, I'm aware of the heroes, and I did read some of the comics, but I'm not like a big comics buff, right? I came in here for the gameplay more than anything. And maybe that's why, but I don't think that's the only reason. I think even Marvel fans will look at the story and be like, you know, it's almost like a popcorn flick, right? You go to the movies, you see the flick, you eat some popcorn, you're like, yeah, it's all right. Whatever. But it's not something that's gonna have you really like think about the deeper implications of the things that are being told. And again, most of the things you can see them coming a mile away. And there's even one point in the story that I was particularly disappointed, because they do the traditional thing where the Avengers kind of like get pissed off at each other, and the whole thing got resolved in like less than 10 minutes. And I was like, wow, you like even in the movies, they did a better job than that. But again, if you're coming to this game, I don't think you're necessarily coming for the story. There is a story there, and you know, it has its moments, but ultimately you're here for the multiplayer experience. At least that's what I would expect. Because if you're coming just for the single player experience, I'm not sure I would advise you to pick up the game just based on the single player stuff. Because this is, for all intents and purposes, if you've played Destiny, this feels just like Destiny, but with the Avengers theme. Because that's pretty much the game that they did, right down to having like the different factions and picking up like your daily things, and then you can do them during the missions. Like, it's extremely similar to Destiny. Like, pretty much every single multiplayer system, it's like you'll start to recognize stuff like, oh, I'll go over here to get my bounties, which I'm not exactly sure what they call them in this game, but there's essentially what are bounties, and you pick them up, and it's like, can be like, oh, kill 10 of this type of enemy, or kill this amount of enemies with headshots, or do this thing. And then you also have like an objective screen, which will tell you the stuff that you can be working towards. Like yesterday, one of the things that I had to do was kill enemies with Cap's ultimate, and what was the other one? I forget. Doesn't matter. It's mostly stuff that you just do by playing the game normally. Sometimes you have to adjust your gameplay slightly, like if you need to get headshots or something like that, because certain characters can do headshots because they have ranged attacks. If you need to get headshots, then you need to adjust slightly. Okay, I need to score some headshots with this character in order to complete this challenge. And as you complete these challenges, like, everything kind of feeds back into the game in terms of like objectives you complete and rewards that you get. and the battle pass stuff as well. And I know that there's been a lot of discussion about the battle passes and how every character has what is a battle pass. And I kind of feel like it's extremely premature of me to discuss battle passes for this game at this point. Not necessarily because I don't have an opinion on them, which I do. I most definitely do. But because I don't know if they'll change the way that they're talking about them. Because the way that they're talking about these battle passes is that these are not seasonal things as most other battle pass games like Fortnite or Apex Legends or something a little bit closer to home for us, Dauntless. You know, those battle passes, like, you know, you get your battle pass and then you have to complete a certain amount of tasks within a certain amount of time. And if you don't complete that certain amount of tasks, essentially you end up missing out on the battle pass. It seems that on the Marvel's Avengers battle pass, that is not the case. These battle passes don't actually go away. So you can take your time doing them, which kind of gives you long-term goals, but ultimately at the end of the day, they're still battle passes. And if you're someone that does not like engaging with battle passes, then that is going to be something that is going to be a bit of a downer for you. And that's pretty much how it goes. Now, these battle passes also, as you advance through them, so like, let's say, for instance, you focus on Iron Man. You go to Iron Man's battle pass. There's a bunch of rewards that you can get by completing like these daily and weekly activities that they set out for you. And as you complete that, you eventually earn this currency called credits. And these credits you can then use to buy, supposedly, because, you know, I haven't even actually seen how the DLC characters are going to work, but supposedly you can use these credits to buy the battle passes for the new characters. You still get the new characters for free, you just don't get the battle passes. And the battle passes don't actually give you anything that gives you like an in-game advantage or something like that. You just get stuff for like cosmetics and other things. And I'm not going to say that cosmetics don't matter, because they do, but again, like, let's say, for instance, right now there's 6 Avengers available in the game, which is what you get with the base game, and all of them have their own battle passes unlocked if you buy the game. So you grab an Avenger that you really like, and you play through the battle pass of that Avenger. I believe you can make up to like 1,200 credits or something like that, which gives you enough credits to buy the battle pass of the new DLC character. And then if you use the DLC character and you finish that battle pass, it gives you enough credits to buy the next battle pass, and so on and so forth. So depending on how much fun you're having with the game and how much time you're spending in the game, you can potentially complete all of these battle passes without actually spending money. Or if you want to, you can just buy the whole thing. I think it's like, actually, I haven't seen the prices. I'm just going off of some of the stuff that Kegren told me. So I think it's like $40 to buy like a full battle pass for a character and just unlock everything from the get-go, which I think is kind of like a waste, to be honest, because it's like, if you're enjoying the game and you're playing the game, you'll eventually just get the battle pass. If you're not enjoying the game, then it's definitely not worth it for you to spend money on the game because you're not enjoying it. So that's pretty much the way that I look at it. And again, I'm not saying that I like it. I want to make this perfectly clear. I'm not saying that I like this battle pass stuff. I don't even like the fact that it's complex as hell to just understand what the hell the system even is, right? Because you're getting units in the game and you're getting credits in the game and you're getting like God knows how many different faction reps and all of these things. And I'm an old school gamer, right? I don't like when these games have all these goddamn currencies and stuff. I'm not a big fan of it, but it is what it is. And that's not going to change. But when it comes to what you can get out of the game, like I said, if you focus on one character or if you focus on playing, you can actually focus on leveling up as many characters as you like. Again, depending on how much fun you're having with the whole thing. That's really what it boils down to. And personally, I'm still enjoying the loop, which is why it's important for me to do a video on this later to let you guys know how I'm feeling about the loop at a later date. My biggest problem right now is still the performance issues because the gameplay is fun. And I just realized we're like 20 minutes into the video and I barely talked about the gameplay, but luckily you're watching gameplay in the background. And like I said, if you've played Destiny, this isn't really going to be groundbreaking. You have combos with your characters, you have light attacks, you have strong attacks, and you have a big mastery, not just mastery, but you have like a big skill tree that passively improves your attacks and also dynamically changes some of the attacks. Now, I've been focusing most of my time on Iron Man and Cap, and some of the stuff that you can do increases Cap's shield throw. It increases the damage that you can do, the stun damage that Cap does. It increases your special abilities, which you have these heroic abilities. And each character is going to have different ones. Usually there's like a support type ability, which is your L1 button on your controller if you're playing on a controller. And there's a more offensive type ability, which is your R1 button. Cap's offensive ability is to throw the shield, and it just kind of like bounces off a bunch of enemies and then comes back. And then there's your ultimate ability, which Cap's ultimate ability is like you get a special thing that lets you use light attacks and throw your shield kind of like a boomerang with your light attacks, and your shield hits multiple times. Iron Man's ultimate ability is to summon the Hulk Buster, which makes him pretty much as powerful as the Hulk. Hulk's ultimate ability is to like just do a thunderclap slap and destroy people. And each of these heroes is going to play remarkably different, not just depending on their abilities, but also depending on the masteries that you end up picking in the trees. I believe that by the time you max out your hero, you can unlock every single ability in the skill tree. And you guys are like, oh, what about builds and stuff? Yeah, the way that builds work is that certain abilities in your skill tree allow for variation. I believe that Destiny also had this. Like, you remember how you could pick different types of grenades in Destiny? It's very similar to that, except there's a lot more choices that you can do. Like, you can pick, oh, whenever I throw my shield, I can kick it back when it's about to get here. Or, you know, if I take this skill, then whenever I punch enemies, I'm dealing additional stun damage. Or instead of that, I can just have my combo finishers deal more damage. And the way that you pick those things in the skill tree is what's going to make the difference into your playstyle. That and naturally your gear, because your gear also affects different aspects of your character and different abilities and so on and so forth. So mix matching gear pieces with your skill tree is going to be what defines your playstyle at the end of the day. And speaking of gear, I gotta tell you, in the 20 hours that I've played, I've barely paid any attention to gear. There's just quite simply, in my opinion, not that much reason to do so, because they use, again, a very similar system to Destiny, which is like, you know, how you had the light level, and here you have the power level, and gear gives you power. And basically what I end up doing is I just equip the most powerful gear, so I never even pay attention to the skills. Now, there is something that you can do here, which you can upgrade your gear for a couple of levels to maintain its relevancy, but I never felt like spending the materials to do that, because I'm just like, well, I mean, who cares? It's not like I'm struggling. I'm playing through the campaign on hard. There were a couple of moments where I did struggle a little bit, but it's like, it never really felt like, oh, I just got completely wiped out. I need to completely change everything and upgrade my gear. I never felt like that. So I'm pretty sure that I'm going to just like coast by until level 50, I think is the cap. Is it 50 or is it 40? I don't know. But I'm going to coast by until I hit the level cap. And then I'm going to start optimizing my gear and using the resources that the game is giving me to, like, you know, properly optimize stuff and so on and so forth. But like I said, at this point in time, I don't hate it. I think it's fun. I know that one of the complaints that I've heard people talking about is how repetitive it is. But like, all of these grinding games are repetitive. Like Destiny's repetitive. Even Monster Hunter World, to a certain extent, is somewhat repetitive. It's just about how enjoyable is that gameplay loop for you. And if you're enjoying it, then, you know, it is what it is. If you're not enjoying it, then you probably shouldn't even engage with it. And I understand a lot of people will not want to invest in this because of the battle pass like system, but if you look at battle passes for games like Apex Legends, Fortnite, and all of these other games that do the seasonal battle passes, I actually prefer the way that this game does it. And again, I'm not saying I like it, I'm just saying I prefer it this way, where there's no time limit on the stuff that you get on your battle pass. There are, however, still seasonal events to give you a little bit of that FOMO action that everybody loves so much. This is sarcastic, by the way. I just saw a part of a live stream to kind of like get an idea of what the end game is going to be like, and they did talk about their seasonal events that will allow you to unlock certain costumes for your characters, and you know, you have to do those in time, otherwise you're going to miss out on some of these costumes. But again, none of this stuff affects direct gameplay, your character power, or all that. And I'm not saying it's not important, it is. I do believe cosmetics are important, but yeah. Another thing that some of you might be wondering, okay, so how do you equip gear onto these Avengers? Like, does it change their suit? Does it change their look in any way? No, gear does not affect looks at all. And it's kind of like, how should I put it? If you guys played Division is kind of like the same way, right? You equip a bunch of stuff that changes your stats, and then you equip stuff that changes the way that your character looks. Except in here, you just have like full suits every time, right? You get a full suit for your hero, and then you equip whatever you want on it, and nothing really changes. It's almost like the stuff that you get is on is inside them, like nanotechnology or whatever. I guess if you want to go with that justification, you can do that. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm still kind of like enjoying it, so I'm still going to keep with it, and I'm still going to play. And once I get to max level, I plan on doing like a live stream here on YouTube where I will talk about the end game and the activities that you can take part in and all of that stuff. But until we get to max level, I most likely will just be streaming this on Twitch. So if you guys are curious to see what that looks like, I'll be playing there, and I'll be leveling up a couple of different heroes. And then I will give you guys a more solid opinion once I've played more. Because again, this is very much not a review. It's just my impressions of what I've played so far, okay? Because like I said, this being a live service game, I want to take my time with it. I want to play around with it more to figure out the things I like, the things I don't like, and bring that back to you guys. But right now, I'm still having fun with it, you know, and if you guys don't feel like that's okay, then that's too bad. Because at the end of the day, look, I just want to have fun with video games, okay? That's all it really is about. Thank you all very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you did not enjoy this video, hit the dislike button, because feedback is important. If you usually enjoy my content, subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, all of that usual jazz. I'll see you in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe, peace out.